Hey YouTube, it's me, Brandon Colonel again. Um, Now, if my voice still seems a little stuffed up today, it's because I just got to it the day after my last video, even though I'm posting this video quite a few days afterward. So, if not weeks, I don't exactly know when I'm going to post it, but it'll be significantly after my very last video. But, so this video, though, is going to be on my definition of tactical folders, and kind of giving it a reason why I feel the way that I do about them. Because recently, like within the past month or two, somebody kind of got on to me about my views and definitions of a tactical folder, and basically just called me out saying I really don't know what I'm talking about. Eventually I'm going to get my knife taken away from me and have it used on me, and I'm going to be in a world of trouble. Now, long story short, he said a lot of other stuff, said a lot of other trying to be hurtful things, it seems like. But then, all in all, I was able to pretty much resolve it with one comment later, showing how he really was fairly wrong with just about everything that he was saying, and how I actually do know what I'm talking about. And so I'll get into that now, just so that way, if there's anybody else that feels that I don't know what I'm talking about with tactical folders, here's the video where I'll show you that I really do know what I'm talking about. Now, yes, this is basically what it's saying. Any knife can be used as a tactical folder. If it's got a sharp and pointy edge on there, you can use it. This little Swiss Army knife knockoff right here made by Guns and Ammo, this thing can be used as a tactical folder. Basically, if crap hits the fan, you can use this. This is not what I would want to go to, considering that the blade can actually start bending backwards if you put too much pressure on it. But you can use this thing. You can also use any other slip joint on planet Earth. You can use your keys. And also, you can use a lanyard. Now, just because you can, does that necessarily mean you want to? Not really. So here's where my definition of a tactical folder comes in. Right now, this is my absolute favorite tactical folder. It's the Kershaw Emerson CQC 7K. Now this knife is really good. It is rock solid, no blade play in any direction. Comes out it flicks out really fast, and with this Emerson Wave feature on it, it makes it even faster. It deploys from the pocket instantly, and I really like that about this knife. The handle just feels really good. It's really intuitive. I like it a lot. And it just feels really comfortable in the hand. Also, the way that everything is shaped, from down here coming to pretty much a skull cracker, which anybody who knows Emerson Designs, when he puts this shape on it, that's basically what it's for. And especially with the stainless steel on here making it stronger, it can actually handle that impact. Also up here, you've got another almost spike-like thing forming, whatever you want to call that, up here, so that way you can go in for a jab that way. You've also got the Emerson Bump, which I've heard that people can also use that, which I also see this curvature right here as being able to come down and use that part to hit somebody, say, in the head, or just do something to affect their body. This, basically, even closed, is another weapon. Now, it's more of an improvised striking tool, and it would be what some people would call less than lethal. Now, sure, I can hit somebody in the head really hard, crack their skull, and probably hit their brain if I use this thing hard enough. But more often than not, you would consider this to be a less than lethal option. Now, granted, you've got the lethal option right here. But say you're just trying to get away, and that's really all that you want to do, is just get away. Here's your option right here. Say that this is your utility knife, and you just don't want to kill anybody. Well, you've still got your self-defense tool right here. Even if you don't ever want to open the knife for defense, you don't have to. It's right here. So that's why this is my absolute favorite. Because for one, you've got multiple options. You've got multiple different things you can do. Excuse me. But most importantly, just how quickly that blade deploys, you have no issues whatsoever. There is absolutely nothing that you have to worry about with this knife. Whereas, with this thing, you've got to get it out of your pocket. You've got to fight with the blade to get it open. Because, honestly, this thing, it takes force to get it open. It's like sandpaper going across concrete, for the action at least. It is very gritty, and there's really not much fixing it. It's just that gritty. So, the only reason why I still have this knife is because it's really the knife that started it all for me. It's the knife that started the obsession with knives, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's the thing that started it all. Now, this is another knife that I carry around for defense. I don't carry it around as much, but I still do carry it sometimes, just when I feel like changing something up. And particularly if I don't feel I'm going to be in that heavy of a situation, and I just simply feel like carrying something different but still reliable, this is another knife that I would carry. Because I can deploy this knife in 1 second flat. This knife, obviously, much quicker. But, yeah, this knife I can deploy in 1 second flat, and it being a ready defensive position. So, the speed of deployment on this is absolutely perfect. Just the overall length of this thing, when I put my hand in to grab it and pull it out, my finger's already at the flipper. And for any knife that has a flipper without the Emerson Wave on it, then that's a must. If I can't get to my pocket and basically already have my hand on the flipper where it needs to be, then the knife is too long, and I would definitely need to use something else. Because if I have to readjust in order to get that flipper, then it's too big and it's going to take me too long to get to the flipper tab. And therefore, if it takes too long to deploy, then those could be precious, valuable seconds that may save my life or end my life. So that's another thing that I'm looking for. Is if it's a flipper with no wave, it's got to have enough real estate coming out, so that way when I grab it, then I can still have enough room to go here, get to that flipper, and open it. This knife almost reaches those qualities and specifications, but it just is barely off. When I am able to reach it, it doesn't always fully deploy. The other times I've got to fully readjust in order to get it. So this knife almost reaches tactical folder specifications for me. I may carry this as a gentleman's tactical, something like whenever I'm going to church or something like that. This is a fairly gentlemanly knife to me. It's got the bolstered look. It looks very nice. Now, sure, the blade is a little big and scary, but I'd still consider this to be a gentleman's tactical. It looks fairly nice. People might not be quite as terrified of this thing, except for the size. The sheer size is what would probably scare people on this knife. But yeah, so I might carry this thing as a gentleman's tactical, but overall, this thing is not what I would carry around as my main tactical folder, because it's just not fast enough. The clip puts it too far away. When I pull it out, that flipper is just too far away, and I'd have to resituate my hands. Now if I switch to tip up and grab it out of my pocket like this, Then I could just pivot around like that, and then there's the blade. But I do prefer tip down carry, so that's still a bit of an issue for me there. Although shifting to tip up would kind of fix that problem, which basically anything this length or over, if I'm actually going for speed of deployment, I would have to shift to tip down carry anyways. Because for speed of deployment, yeah, for a knife of this size, you definitely need that. So, but honestly, this is really the larger end of the spectrum that I would ever carry anyways, but I would more carry this as an EDC, so speed of deployment isn't really my biggest concern with this at the moment, which, by the way, I am in the middle of testing this, so it'll be just a little bit longer. Let's see, this is another tactical folder that I carry. This is very quick, very fast deploying. Pull it out right there. Now, as far as maybe training that I've got that you guys would be interested in, as far as formalized training, such as like paying money to go to a dojo and training in martial arts, technically no, I don't have any of that. But I have trained with different people that, there was one person that I trained with that I pretty much claim most of my tactical training, so to speak. It was more of an informal self-defense class that was put on by one of my friends, and it was basically for friends. Although he was in the Air Force Special Forces before he came to college with me. And he was actually the person who would train other people in martial arts for when they went into the Air Force as well. He actually went into the respective countries for each and every individual martial art that he learned. His dad, every once in a while, when he was a kid, then his dad would actually bring him to these particular countries, and when they were in that country, he would have his son learn these martial arts. I think he went to Brazil at one point and learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That was one of the first martial arts that he learned. He learned Muay Thai in whatever country Muay Thai started in. I remember him telling me at some point. He learned capoeira. He's learned American wrestling. He's learned American boxing. Basically all sorts of mixed martial arts. He knows quite a few. I remember one of the ones that apparently he's most proud of is learning Wing Chun, or Wing Chun, which is apparently the martial art that I think it was Bruce Lee invented. He's apparently really proud of that one. He taught me a little bit of quite a few of these, just enough to not exactly be proficient in the martial art itself, but enough to have a little bit in my repertoire so that way I can do something more than just clawing at somebody's face and trying to stab them with a sharp pointy object saying, "Get away from me now." So, and it was a little bit more than just, okay, hit here, do this. He actually tried to show each of us specific things more geared towards what we would be able to do. He tried to spar with us every once in a while, see what our style should be, see what our style was currently, and see if, so that way he could see if he needed to change anything, and say, okay, you should, instead of doing this, you need to focus on this. This would benefit your style a lot better. And, but also he would tell us every once in a while, okay, you seem to be doing good here, or you don't have enough of this over here. Basically, stop focusing on this and focus on this. Basically, before, when I first started, striking was all that I had. I knew nothing but striking. You got me on the ground, and I was done for. I had no clue what to do on the ground. And seeing as it was informalized sparring, pretty much, with with me and a couple other friends, then I couldn't exactly use sparring. I couldn't exactly use my striking to its full potential, because seeing as it's just friendly sparring, couldn't exactly knock somebody out. I mean, for one, it's just a bunch of friends. You don't want to knock everybody out. But yeah, so I couldn't use my striking very well. I could still practice it and keep the guy at bay, but I could not use it to its full potential. So therefore, I was forced to learn a ground game, and that's what he made me focus on quite a bit, which now I'm at least proficient enough to the point where when I'm actually allowed to use my striking, then say somebody does get me on the ground, I can actually use my striking in conjunction with it, and I'll be a lot more effective. And considering that I'm actually fairly effective now at a ground game, then that'll make it fairly easy for me. As far as other tactical training that I've got, I learned a little bit in Senior ROTC, not too much in J ROTC though, but I did learn a little bit in Senior ROTC. They focus more on the formations though, and how to use a firearm, but there wasn't really all that much hand-to-hand. We saw just a slight bit of hand-to-hand, but that was like only one day, and it was just like a really quick, informal thing. It was just, oh, by the way, if this is happening, then you do this. Didn't really get any kind of hands-on for it. It was just there. That was about it. But yeah, so it didn't really get much there. But also with the Air Force Special Forces guy, he also showed me a little bit in knife combat. My personal favorite was when he had this, it was his personal karambit. That was it. Yeah, his personal karambit. But it was a double-ringed karambit. Basically, it had a ring. I'll just use this as an example. It had the ring right here, but it also had a pointer finger ring, which, if I get a karambit, I'm going to get a traditional one, because I just didn't care for the secondary ring. But yeah, he had a double-ringed karambit, and he showed me how to use it. And personally, I love karambits. If I actually get a chance to get a karambit with an Emerson wave, I will definitely carry that happily over my Kershaw Emerson here. But yeah, I would love to carry a karambit as my main tactical folder, because it's just a really, really interesting design, and you can do a lot to mess somebody up with one of those things, and I love the design. It's really effective. Not to mention you can use it in a myriad of ways. He also showed me a little bit about bow staves. There was this thing that he called a Filipino karambit, which basically it had a ring on the bottom, but it had two blades, so one coming out this side, one coming out this side, and then they met in the center, basically making a Chris dagger. Excuse me. Which, for those of you that don't know what a Chris dagger is, basically it's picture the VEF serrations from CRKT, but and it kind of just goes in and out wavy. It's not quite as predictable as the VEF serrations, but it's kind of wavy in the same way. But just look up Chris Blade on Google and you'll see what I mean. The best comparison that I can give is really just think of VEF serrations, but a little bit more randomized. But otherwise, that's kind of what it is. But yeah, so that was his Filipino karambit, and he showed me a little bit with that. He showed me a little bit with these little short bamboo sticks, about maybe that long, which apparently they're more defensive, but you can use them for offense. He showed me a little bit about how to use those, I didn't really care for them all that much because I'd never use them, I'd never buy them, so didn't really care to pick them up. Although I probably could just pick up a set of sticks that I find on the ground and use them the same way. But then again, if I've got a knife on me, I'll pull that instead of just getting a stick off the ground to try to use it like these bamboo things that he had. But yeah, he also had me bring my own personal knife, so that way I could get used to handling one of my own. Now, at the time, I was still testing my Spyderco Tenacious, and so I brought that one. Although I probably, in a little bit more forward thinking, I probably should have brought something more along the lines of my ZT-0350, or at the time, the knife that I was carrying for self-defense was my 561, before I started truly thinking about the whole clip being far enough down to get why don't I actually get a knife with a flipper? Being far enough down on here, so that way when I grab it, then I have enough room to actually actuate that flipper. Which on my 561, there is far too much handle between me and in the flipper tab. I pull it out, and I've really got to resituate to actually get to that flipper tab. But so in hindsight, I probably should have brought maybe the 561 or my 0350. But instead I brought the Tenacious. But it worked out just fine. I still know what I need to do with it. He showed me a little bit about how to avoid a knife, how to trap a knife, and basically anything that I can do to still retain my life in the end if I do come up with somebody else who has another knife. But yeah, so really good training. Now, like I said, it's not exactly formalized, and I didn't get like a full-on training to the point where I'm a master at everything that he showed me. It was just informal stuff. But I do have enough knowledge now to be able to stay alive and also know what I'm looking for in a good tactical folder. Now, for me personally, I really do like all of these Tanto designs. The Tantos are easily my favorite because they're really strong designs. And specifically this one. This has a nice curvature to it that you don't really see in too many Tantos, which would make this a better slasher. It'll actually increase edge retention, but at the same time, you can easily stab with it, which basically incorporating what I know with unarmed combat with this knife, then I can put this in my main hand, and so then when I go for my full-on strike, then I can just twist my hand and then go in with the blade instead. So that way, instead of just connecting with my fist, I'm connecting with a blade. And so that'll give me a lot of power while I've still got a lethal weapon in my hand. So that's why I like Tantos, because it just incorporates itself fairly easily into striking. And then say I actually get out my boot knife, which I don't really have. Oh, yeah, it is right here. Then say I actually have enough time to pull out my boot knife as well. Then I can just use them in conjunction. And one thing that I can also do is say the person is right here, I can punch off to this side and again connect with the edge. And then when I connect, then I can slash out. And that's another thing that he would show me that I can do it. But that would take a little bit more practice. So every once in a while I can just go out and practice on like a tree or something and see just how well I can actually accomplish it. But yeah, so then I can get both knives out and then use them in that same way. Kind of just feint off to one side, connect with the edge, or I can use them like that. And then whenever I go for one, just go in for a stab. And so Tantos just lend themselves fairly well to an unarmed style, with just a little bit of modification. Whereas something like this, heavy recurve, this is a dedicated cutter. Now, I could still pierce with this fairly easily, but it wouldn't be anywhere near as easy as something like this. Now, for this, I would more want to go slashing this way if I could in a forward carry, but it would work in reverse grip. And so, just stuff like this is what I'm really looking for in tactical holders. Now, tactical fixed blades, there's a whole myriad of things you can do for that. Really, any kind of fixed blade will work for a tactical fixed blade, as long as it's thick enough to get the job done, as long as it's got good enough steel that if you miss and hit a brick wall or something, then the edge isn't going to chip out too bad, and you'll still actually have a blade. So yeah, just as long as the knife is strong enough, really any fixed blade is going to work. So I don't really go into classifying tactical fixed blades. The only thing that I would suggest is that it's got some kind of a guard. So that way if you try to stab something, then your hand doesn't slide forward. Something like maybe a Mora, which doesn't really have all that much of a guard. I wouldn't really suggest one of those as a tactical fixed blade, because there's just not enough of a guard to keep you from sliding forward. Something like this, good luck sliding forward, good luck sliding backwards, good luck with anything. Excuse me. This knife is not moving. One of the reasons why I ditched my CRKT Sting is because it had no guard. It's an absolutely pathetic boot knife, honestly. It's been downgraded to a really just an impact tool. It's not even classified as a sharp, pointy object to me anymore, because it's really not sharp. It's not really all that pointy. It's just a heavy object. That's really all that it was. So yeah, I don't carry that anymore because of the lack of guard, the lack of sharpness, the lack of pointiness, basically lack of everything that made it what I need it to be. So yeah, just long story short, my idea of tactical, something that I can deploy quickly, something that's strong, something that has a strong enough edge to be able to hold up if I miss, and something that is sharp enough to be able to cut whatever I put in front of it, or whoever I put in front of it in this case. Something with a good enough steel that it can retain a very, very good edge, so that way I can slip into anything with this edge. I can slip past clothing, right into the skin, and cause a lot of damage very quickly. And now, what makes my favorite is options. Less than lethal, basically all around less than lethal, lethal. In an instant you can change your mind and do whatever you want. If I need to change here, I have less than lethal again. But just as quickly, I've got my lethal option back. Say that I don't deploy my knife right away. Well, I can just simply grab it and I can start hammering away. There's my lethal. So, either way, I've got something to defend myself with this because I have options, which I really do like that. But yeah, so I'm going to cut it off right here before the camera cuts me off. So, if you guys have any other questions about my idea of tactical, just put it down in the comments. And as always, YouTube, stay safe.